Hey guys, Jacob Howard here from FPV Unlocked, and today we are going to look at my top 10 things I love and hate about the new DJI FPV drone. Now, before we jump into it, I need to get a few things out of the way. I've been watching a ton of reviews on this, just like everyone else, and from the professionals you can trust out there, I'm not seeing many who are going full out saying you should buy this. I'm seeing many talk about the cool features and calling it a beginner drone. My review is going to be different. I'm going to look at it from two perspectives, the FPV world and the cinematography world. We've been hearing since early on that this is a drone for beginners, or one to get cinematic shots, or one for freestyle. Every time you hear one explanation for it being bad for one of those, it gets shifted to a new category. So we are going to address these issues. First, let's go over the 5 things I do like about this drone. Number 1, battery life. It's no surprise that DJI made this drone with their own version of a smart battery. This makes things a lot easier for new FPV pilots because this battery basically charges itself, and there are no worries or monitoring that has to be done with it. It also charges fairly fast at about an hour for full charge from 20%. Of course, that means that you will not get any beginner experience on dealing with LiPo batteries, so it doesn't prepare you at all for diving into traditional FPV if you decide to expand your skills. Now, the battery life on it is fairly decent. Even though they say you can get 20 minutes, most of my tests were getting about 8 to 10 minutes depending on my flying. If you are cruising around or doing a few flips here and there, I'd expect a flight time of about that. The downside is that you don't have any options for making this flight time better. With traditional FPV, you can change motors or batteries or even props to get more airtime. Not the case here. Although I do think that DJI will make an updated battery so that you can get longer flight times. Number 2, obstacle avoidance. Now, obstacle avoidance is a hit and miss thing, no pun intended. Sometimes it is great, other times it is going to stop you and prevent you from really flying your drone well. The thing that they did well on this drone was displaying a bar on the top of the goggle display that shows where obstacles are. This is much better than the usual DJI stabilized drone obstacle avoidance that would put large overlays on the screen showing you where they were. This really got in the way of the view of your drone. Number 3, goggle on-screen display. I really like what they did with the on-screen display, or OSD. Things look clean and it shows what you really want to see, like estimated battery amount left, where your takeoff point is, current speed, altitude and distance from takeoff, controller and visual link, and other warnings like when you have switched modes, obstacle avoidance, and more. All in all, it gives a good overview of where you are and what you are doing. Number 4, camera tilt. Camera tilt is a very important thing in FPV because it directly correlates with how fast you are moving. If your camera tilt is low, you will go slower. If it is higher, you will go faster to keep the camera aligned on the horizon. Now, I think they did a good job with this because it's easy to adjust while in flight and it shows you the angle you are tilted in the goggles. This is honestly probably one of my favorite features of the new drone. Number 5, the video transmission. Now really it comes as no surprise that the image of this FPV drone looks superb in the goggles compared to analog FPV. You do get a slightly higher resolution from this drone than the DJI FPV Air unit directly to the goggles. The latency is also minimal and allows for free movement without worrying about delays. I'm definitely impressed with this aspect of the drone. Also, I love that these drones have the ability to connect a phone and be able to see what the viewer is seeing in the goggles and through the drone. Okay, so those are the top 5 things I like about this drone. Now let's jump into the top 5 things I do not like about this drone. Number 1, the camera. So at first, honestly, I hated the camera. I couldn't really see anyone getting really good footage and it was very disappointing. The best footage I could see was on the original release video. However, with some more testing and flying in different scenarios, I found it to be acceptable. The quality is pretty good, probably on par with the GoPro Hero 5 or 6. If you do the Cine-like D picture profile, you can get it to look like a GoPro Hero 7 Black after some talented color grading. But here are the 2 big issues with the camera, the settings and the codecs. When you go to set the settings on a traditional FPV drone for the camera, you do it on the GoPro and you set it to whatever you want for that flight. Also, the goggles always show you the FPV camera, so it doesn't matter if the settings on your goggles are set to automatic and the image is changing constantly because your GoPro is still locked on to whatever settings you set it. With this drone, however, any settings you have for the goggles are the ones it records with. For professional cinematographers, this is a big issue. Because you need your goggles to be on auto most of the time, but to get good footage you can use, you want your camera set to specific settings so that you can capture that quality footage. There's also no way to set an ISO auto limit. On your GoPro, you can set ISO to be from 100 to 400, for example, so that the image brightens slightly in a dark area. There's no such option with this drone. So you were either stuck with auto settings or manual settings that your camera and goggles have to both obey. This really limits the kind of quality you can get in your footage. For codecs, this has been an issue with most DJI drones. For some reason, the files that DJI drones spit out are usually very difficult for most editing programs to handle. I have an editing machine at my office that I have used for 8K footage and it has no problem handling it. But when I throw in some DJI footage, it can barely play a thing. Some editing programs are better than others. I've found DaVinci Resolve to handle it better than Premiere Pro, but you usually still have more issues with it than you would with GoPro footage. This can make your editing time a whole lot longer. With all that being said, the camera isn't as bad as many videos are making it look. It's definitely not something I would do client work with, but DJI is known to publish huge updates to their camera over firmware updates, so we will see if that is the case here. Why they didn't just make it a good camera from the get-go is a little bit beyond me. Another big issue with this drone is the props and view shots. I have actually tilted the camera all the way up to 35 degrees and I can still see the props in the video. Yes, you can crop these out in post and such, but it's just another thing that could have been easily fixed with a slightly different frame design. Also, the gimbal stabilizer does a decent job of smoothing out moves for the footage, but it also does some smoothing for your flying experience in the goggles, which can make it difficult to fully judge when your move is completed and your orientation. FPV piloting relies on milliseconds worth of reaction time, and the setting of the camera didn't help. If I made a sharp turn, the camera would smooth that turn out instead of showing exactly what that sharp turn was. This can definitely be an issue. Number 2, the tune. Now, I'm not a crazy tune my FPV drone until it's perfect kind of guy. I like a nice, sturdy tune that will help me get great shots. The DJI FPV tune is very sloppy. On tricks, you get a lot of prop wash and bounce back. When doing turns, I feel like the drone is sliding, and when trying to do quick moves or dives, I get a lot of delay with what I'm going for and plenty of vibrations on dives. Now, you can adjust the rates of the drone, and I haven't dived deeply into that, but that won't fix most of the issues I'm experiencing with the tune it comes with. This will definitely leave a bad taste with beginners who start with this thing and they are frustrated with the tune and that they can't change it and get the kind of footage in flight that they want. Number 3, altitude limit. Okay, this one gets me the most. This drone has an altitude limit from where you take off. So if you take off and ascend 500 meters or 1,640 feet from where you took off, it will abruptly stop you in the air, switch you to normal mode, and won't let you go back into manual until you descend. This is a feature all DJI drones have, but it was one I was really hoping was not on this drone. Now you may be thinking 1,640 feet is plenty of altitude. Not really. If you fly any type of mountain or rising landscape, that amount of altitude does not hold up for much. Not having an altitude limit is one of my favorite things about flying FPV. I can go 5,000 feet up a mountain and dive it with my FPV drones. Not the case with this drone. When I think cinematic FPV, I'm thinking amazing mountains to dive and cool places to explore, and most of those places require an altitude change far beyond 1,640 feet. So, for this reason alone, I would say this drone is not one I would normally buy to add to my fleet, because I can't get the shots that I want with it. Now we go to number 4, geofencing. Once again, because this is a DJI drone, they have incorporated firmware that is on their other drones, and this one is almost as bad as the altitude limit. DJI described their geofencing program like this. DJI geofencing uses GPS and other navigational satellite signals to automatically help prevent drones from flying near sensitive locations such as airports, prisons, nuclear power plants, and high-profile events. In certain locations, a DJI drone cannot take off or fly in a geofenced area without special authorization. Drone pilots with verified DJI accounts can unlock some areas if they have legitimate reasons and necessary approvals, but the most critical areas require special action from DJI to unlock them. Now, I'm all for drone safety, and not flying drones around airports is very smart. However, the geofencing from DJI can affect places that really make no sense. Another reviewer, Kebab FPV, found he couldn't fly his drone on the side of a mountain away from any civilization, and no reason was given on the drone or the app for why. This is a partial geofencing map from DJI showing you what these zones can look like in the United States. Yeah, no fun. And then we get to number 5, durability. Yeah, I know, this is the joke about the drone. Anybody with a whole drone is being told it will be wrecked in no time. We Talk UAV did an interesting durability test like they have for other DJI drones and found it to actually be quite resilient. Several of the tests look promising. He even flew it straight into a concrete pillar and it still flew afterwards. But those tests don't really show what an FPV drone has to go through. On any one of the crashes he showed, the drone was going no faster than 10 or 15 miles per hour. For FPV, we are talking hitting racing gates at 70 to 90 miles per hour, diving down a mountain at 60 miles per hour and hitting a tree trunk, disarming for safety reasons and plummeting 200 feet into the ground. I've done all those things with FPV drones and picked them up, brushed them off, and got back to flying. There is no way that this drone would survive that. And in conclusion, here are my concerns. I hear three main arguments, and they are ones I defended at various points during testing this. Number one, it's a simplified FPV drone for beginners. I don't see how this can be true. To learn the bare minimum of traditional FPV, you can buy a pre-built FPV drone, connect it, and fly it in acro right away after getting some time in a simulator. You might have to learn how to charge and discharge batteries, and maybe a bit on fine-tuning the drone's flying. When you crash, and if it breaks, which they often do, then you can send it to hundreds of hobbyists who love fixing them, and fixing them for cheap. That's honestly what I just have McGregor do all the time. I just give him my broken drones, and then he fixes them for me. To get into this drone though, you need to buy a pre-built FPV drone, connect it, learn in the simulator how to fly acro, and then fly in real life. Only difference is, when you crash this one, it will break, and instead of paying $30 to fix a motor or an arm, you might be looking at hundreds. Also, the pre-built traditional FPV drone costs a few hundred at most, and this guy runs at $769 just for the drone. But you say, what about normal mode? This drone has normal mode. I need that to learn. Yep, other FPV drones have that. It's called stabilized mode. Okay, you may say, what about GPS return to home? That's a nice feature that DJI drones have that FPV definitely does not have. Though it is streamlined on here, FPV drones can be purchased with that set up already. So in the end, most of the features that make this drone FPV beginner simplified are things you can get on drones anyway. This is not an FPV drone for beginners. I actually found this drone harder to fly than my other FPV drones or my other DJI stabilized drones. Okay, so the other option, number two, it must be for cinematographers. No, it's not. I do cinematography with FPV, and like I said earlier, the camera is not good enough and not customizable enough for professional work. At least not professional work that is higher quality than flying my traditional FPV drones. Okay, so if it's not for beginners and it's not for cinematographers, it must be for freestyler racing. As mentioned earlier, the durability of a drone for racing needs to be very high. I've hit gates at 70 miles per hour and the drone was fine. I don't think that would be the case with this drone. Also, the tune on this drone isn't really good enough for the flights most freestyle pilots enjoy. They like to have clean shots, no prop wash or bounce back, and that's definitely happening with this drone. So, in conclusion, would I recommend this drone? Especially for beginners, which seems to be the thing people are pushing it most towards. Well, the drone itself is $769. For that price, you could buy up to 4 nice traditional FPV drones to crash and use. And the only feature they would be missing compared to the DJI FPV drone are adjustable camera tilt while flying, emergency brake, and that's about it. So no, at this point, I would not recommend this for beginners. It isn't easy enough to start with or durable enough to withstand the crashes that always happen with beginners. So if not for beginners, would this be a good drone for FPV pilots to get? I'd also say no. It doesn't allow the customization we are used to, and though there are some amazing new innovations, they aren't ones that will suit most FPV pilots. And honestly, that's a big positive thing about this, is the innovation. We are getting there. This just isn't quite there yet. At this point, can I actually recommend this drone to anyone? Right now, and this may change about the drone once we get more information and updates, I actually would not recommend it. I'd highly recommend getting into FPV yourself and even starting with a pre-built FPV drone and learning how to use it. I'll actually include a link down below on free training for how to get started. And the final thing I want to throw out there about this drone, it is not, I repeat, not an all-in-one drone as some are saying. This is not going to give you good Mavic Pro-like footage because it isn't built to. It does not have the abilities that a Mavic has, and it does not have the camera that a Mavic has. Now, I'm probably still going to throw out some tutorials and such on this drone so that those who do have it can get the best experience. And if my opinion on it changes, I will let you guys know with an update. And of course, if you have any questions, definitely let me know, and have fun flying.